Hey guys, Sparta here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Warkings Revolution out August 20th on Napalm Records. This album has 10 tracks, 40 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are a power metal band. Now this is not a concept record, but it's a theme-driven album. Something that we've seen from them in the past. They continue down that road of giving you a glimpse of what the record is going to be all about as far as the stories and the lyrical content is concerned, just by looking at the title of the album itself. As far as the structure goes, I love how this album is put together. 10 songs, 40 minutes, you blink, the album is over. It's very dynamic, it's very fluid, it has a lot of life, it has a lot of motion. It's a record that feels very balanced, very cohesive, very tight. If you go over those 10 songs, over that 40-minute mark, perhaps the album starts to feel a little bit repetitive, a little bit redundant. So I really feel like it's important for a band to understand their sound, their style, what they want out of the record, and enhance all the positives while removing all the negatives. That's exactly how this album feels from a structural perspective. Once you get into the soundscape, this is a little bit of a richer sounding album, at least that's my perception. The two previous records felt a little bit more driven, a little bit raw at times. This one feels like there's a little bit more layers to it, which increases the overall footprint of the sound of the record itself. It changes on a few songs, it adds a little bit more life, it makes the sound feel a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, and therefore it comes at you in a larger wave. It's not as driven, it's not as penetrating, it lingers more. And one of the reasons for that has to be the guitar approach all around. The execution and approach on this record is phenomenal. I've been talking about the guitars on Warkings for a very long time. I feel like there's been an escalation, a progression of quality from the first record all the way to this album. If you look at the solos, they're magnificent. Understanding the tracks, the execution goes with what the track calls for, it adds value. You're not just inserting a solo in a song because you feel like the song needs to have a solo. No, you're bringing something to the table. You're adding to the energy of the track, or you're enhancing the lyrical content. You're making the song feel a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, a little bit more driven. And that is something that is going to be super consistent across every single song. Not every solo sounds alike, not every solo has the same origin, the same drive, the same inspiration, but what they do to the songs and the quality that they bring, that is a standard that stays very consistent across all 10 tracks. Outside of the solos, the guitars really drive the experience. They're the motor, they're the driver of the overall record. The drums fall in line. They hold the balance of power, if you will, by controlling a little bit of the foundation of the record and giving the right momentums or giving the right substance to allow the guitars to really be explosive and to really jump over the top. So while perhaps not having as much of a predominant role throughout this record, they still have a very important one in order to make the songs feel as tight, as warm as possible, because that's also something that I noticed on the drum sounds on this record. Felt a little bit warmer, they felt a little bit wider, they felt that they had a little bit more bass in them. On top of this, you have the vocals of the Tribune. He could sell iced Eskimos. I know this is something that I've said in the past, but it stays true to today. He has an incredible voice, an incredible tone, an incredible delivery, and he really brings the songs to life. He really brings the lyrics to life. He adds to the overall experience incredible nuances and how he moves, perhaps from some more methodic verses into really explosive choruses. Magnificent. He is the puppet master, adding the necessarily ebbs and flows to the songs, making them feel even more dynamic than what they sound like. This is also the first record by Warkings where you're not going to get the Queen of the Damned on a track. Instead, you get the Lost Lord. I like a sense of continuity. You see that in the themes of their records. That's something that I would like them to continue to do. Having the same guest vocalist on every single album, that's not something that I'm completely fond of. So I love the fact that they had the Queen of the Damned on the first two records, and now they added the Lost Lord. It gives something new to the listener, it gives a change to the listener, and it gives a chance to go in different paths with different songs, so you don't seem like every record has the same style, has the same approach, the same construction, the same guest vocalist. So kudos to them for thinking outside the box, going in a different direction with a much different sounding vocalist for a guest appearance on this record. Overall, I really enjoyed this album. Now, I had some questions coming in because I wasn't a huge fan of the first single. I enjoyed the second a little bit more, but I wasn't a big fan of the first single, and I wasn't really sure where they were going to go with this album from a soundscape perspective, but also from a storytelling approach. Now, the more I listen to this album, the more I gravitate to it. This album is like cocaine for the brain. Like, the more you listen, the more hooked you get to it, the more you cannot live without. It has a lot of simplicity that comes with power metal, and you need that in order to make it catchy and as hooky as possible. That is still there. But when you start listening to these songs and you listen to the tracks, even the singles, in the context of the album, it really works. It really adds to the fluidity. They almost sound like different songs altogether, because the emotion and the feel and the vibes that you get from the previous track jump into that next track and makes the song feel a little bit more complete. Like it's packaged in a much better way. So overall, I enjoy this record more than the previous album. I just feel like there has a little bit more of a richer sound. The guitars sound even better than what they did in the previous album, and I felt like it had a little bit more power, was a little bit more driven, was a little bit more direct, perhaps simple at times, but still with some layers in there in order to give the listener a lot of things to process. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, We Are the Fire is the opening track on the album, and this is my favorite song on the record. I just love the energy, the tempo, and the dynamic changes between the verses and the chorus. Super bombastic in the chorus, but the blend of the two really gives the ebbs and flows that makes this song work. It's a very driven track, musically and vocally. Catchy, hooky, all of those elements are there. It has an amazing solo that just really jumps off the track. It's not really blended in the mix. It really feels like it's coming into the forefront, almost like the guitar player is taking 2 steps forward and igniting the song and asking for the spotlight to be on him. That's exactly how the solo sounds on this song, and that allows the song to feel even bigger, even greater, but great tempo, great melody, great vocals all around. Next, you have Kill for the King, another track that has a lot of similarities with We Are the Fire. It has a lot of similarities as far as the drive is concerned, as far as the tempo goes, but also as far as the overall construction of the track in terms of having that switch between the verses and the chorus, very bombastic in the chorus, a little bit more direct, a more direct approach, if you will, in the verses. All of that is there. The backing vocals in this song is what changes things around. So when you look at these two tracks, while having a lot of similarities, just by adding one element, which is the backing vocals, it changes the perception of the listener. It changes how you process the song. It changes how the track comes across. It changes how the song feels. It makes it feel a little bit more darker, a little bit stronger, a little bit heavier. I love the way this put together, because just the vocals alone, just those backing vocals alone, really changes the perception of the song. Another track with an amazing solo. This one feels like it's a little bit more part of the track itself, so it doesn't break away from the song. It just blends in with what's happening already within the track. So it gives, you have another great solo, but delivered in a much different way that fits the song a lot better. Last but not least, you have Ragnar. The female vocals at the opening of this track are really interesting because it kind of creates a little bit of a nuance, creates a little bit of an atmosphere. It works really well with this track and how it sounds and how it comes across. Overall, it feels a little bit more methodic. It's a track that's not necessarily as driven, that has a little bit of a slower tempo to it, and because of that, it allows itself to be a little bit more epic. It allows itself to gain a little bit more volume, feel a little bit bigger. The solo on this track is outstanding. It has an old school approach that just expands the footprint of the song. It expands how the song feels, how the song sounds. It's completely over the top, and it matches the overall storytelling aspect that the track already has within itself. I love how it comes across. I love how it's all put together, but the solo is really the nail in the coffin as far as this track is concerned. This is it. This is Warkings with Revolution, out August 20th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.